I'll go first. I'm Kelly Houghton. I'm a fifth grade teacher in Bakersfield, California, in the United States. My students are 10 to 11 years old. I teach multiple subjects. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Hi, my name's Kay Vanderhoven, and I teach in Folkestone, and I teach from year 7 all the way up to year 13, and I teach drama.
Right. Hello, Facebook. These are my two female educators. Welcome to another show on the female educator. Oh my goodness, I forgot my title. Wrong table. Right. And today's session, we'll be looking at thoughts. Basically, what are some of the thoughts these educators had before they actually had to go into this new normal setup in relationship to the psychological aspect, physical aspect, emotional aspect. How were they really feeling when they actually have to go and teach in this new normal, right? You know, because we know now, educators, we were just thrown at it without any prior experience. Some of us had to, is either sink or swim, but you couldn't sink, you had to swim. So we all swam across.
Yeah.
Some of us either swam really well, some actually paddle. But at the end of the day, we actually got there. And I'm so proud of my educators, my colleagues. We've done well. It doesn't have anyone tell us. We know we've done well from where we came from no knowledge or very little knowledge of teaching online to actually become master of it. I am saying we are now master of it. There are different levels of mastery, but we are master of it because we didn't know anything at all. So let's just hear from the educators who have actually been there and done
it. Okay, should I go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so right, so obviously I teach drama, which is quite interesting to do remotely and online. So I was, so the day that we found that we were going into lockdown, I was madly kind of panicking about my year 11s because they, we didn't know what was going to happen with them. So, because we didn't know what was going to happen with their exam. Pearson, the exam board weren't really being incredibly helpful. So I was madly going around like giving out their bits of work, finding them. They were just coming out of a mock maths exam, and I was giving them pieces of work. They were saying goodbye to everybody. They assumed it was their last day. So they were just writing on their shirts and stuff, and I was saying, yeah, that's very nice, here's some drama work for you to do, there you go. And I was, you know, thinking about what on earth I could take home, because I knew it was going to be a long time that I was going to need, and I think pretty much everybody was in the same kind of boat. So I have in my office / conservatory pretty much everything that I'm going to need. So I've got my drama books, and then I've got my folders with all my information, and that's where I've been kind of based. And the difficulty has been in turning a practical subject into something that's going to engage students and get them into wanting to get online and do the work. So I set a task for them, which is like 45 minutes. And amazingly, don't know how, but obviously because I'm a genius, but amazingly, it's worked. And I've had kids who, like the school that I'm in, is a typical seaside school. And so it has its, you know, very, very social, economic issues, and we have, you know, a high degree of PP schools, PP students, And we have our SEN kids as well. And I've got some kids who find it really difficult to engage practically in the lesson. And I have found that teaching remotely I've actually been able to engage these kids that I have never been able to engage before, because they haven't felt the pressure that they felt within the classroom. So I've been able to use the amazing theatre that has been out there, because obviously the theatres are in a different place. So I've been able to use that, and we've been able to use the time to watch live theatre, and I've had to sort of to use my brain to think laterally and think about how I'm going to get the students to switch on remotely.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. It's interesting that your students were able to be more engaged online than in the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just means that for me, whenever we go back to whatever normal is, I will have another strategy to take back into the classroom. Yeah. And so there will be another way that I can offer students who don't want to practically engage in the lesson. So I'll be able to offer students who don't want to involve themselves into my lesson. Before it was I was very cut and dry. Everybody takes part practically. Well, now I can be more kind, and I can say, well, then you can do it this way. And so perhaps I can confidence build in a different way, because I have had students participating every week, where and astonished the teachers, whereby astonished teachers, because they're not participating in the other subjects, because they think drama's a soft subject. Right. And the students, I mean, some of the teachers as well, but because they think and so they think it's going to be easier subject to get into, and so they well I'll just do drama, and that would be an easier thing to do, and so because of that, a lot of the kids have floated towards that. So actually I've had a really high volume of kids doing the subject.
Whoa, that's fantastic. It's interesting that the fact that you get them to engage more online than they would in the classroom. Why do you think it's so?
Well, I've worked really hard to make sure that because I've been, so for example, for year 8, I did a whole unit on live theatre, so different genres of live theatre, and just getting them to sit and actually watch some live theatre that perhaps they wouldn't have been able to do before. Some of my students won't have ever been to live theatre before, and there was so much, like I said, there was so much breadth of theatre. And so they were sitting and they were reflecting, and then I got them to complete a Google form, Google quiz thing. That was an interesting experience for me to learn how to do that, and learn how to actually to work out where the responses were, and because I'm not very technical, so that was an experience, and so that was really good. And then for my year 9s, I did a little bit more challenging unit on Macbeth. Now for that we did a bit on sort of directing and critical analysis and stuff like that. But the thing that they really loved was creating a mood board.
Okay, fantastic.
They loved that. They really loved sort of having a free range of their imagination, and then just sort of getting thoughts and materials and quotes together, and creating a mood board.
That's interesting. I'll come back to that in a while. Thank you. Kelly,
My pleasure.
what are your thoughts when you had to go and start this new normal?
Well, at first, what was happening in the United States is that it started more on the East Coast. And even though it was going in spots throughout California, it was heading towards California. And nobody knew what was going to go on and how anybody was going to approach anything. I joined some groups on Facebook on teachers that were doing long distance education, so I could get some ideas of what people were doing. And that helped out quite a bit. There was a lot of confusion on what we were supposed to do. The week that it happened, we were supposed to have parent teachers conferences with our parents on our kids that were lower kids to let them know how they were doing and things like that. And we were getting ready for our state testing. So we were gearing up for that. And then then they said, well, we're not going to have our, like about 3 days before the weekend, they said, we're not going to have our parent teachers conference. We're like, oh. And we started hearing reports that there was positive people for the virus in surrounding like San Francisco area was getting a lot of people positive. The hospitals were starting to get people coming in from other counties around Kern County. That's the area where I live in Central California. And then we were just sitting there waiting because we knew and stuff. Other school districts were closing down. We're like, how come we're not closed? Why are we still, why are we still open? So then they decided, okay, we're gonna come back to school, because at that time we were at minimum school for that week. We're just gonna come back and we're gonna close the school for the kids on Wednesday, and we'll come back for 2 weeks. Oh, okay, all right. So we didn't know what was going on. So we were lost, to tell you the truth, as teachers. We didn't, like, what are we gonna do? We were told not to make up packets, things like that. The district's gonna make up packets. They said, take your personal things when you go home. And it was like, okay. So does that mean we're not coming back or what? And the reason they shut down the school for 2 weeks was they came up with their first positive person in our school, in our county. 2 weeks came and then they shut us down. They said they're going to shut us down to May something. So that date came, and then they said, no, they're going to shut us down to something else. And then finally it's just the rest of the year. Initially they said, okay, get your teams together and you're going to make a long distance printed packet for your district, for your grade level. So for 3 days, we worked 10 to 12 hours putting together a packet for our students to work on. And, finally we got something to do. Everybody's like, yeah, we got something to do, because we didn't know what to do. Everybody was lost. I had a lot of friends that were depressed. We didn't know what to do. It affected us all the way around. And so then we found out later that they didn't use our packets. They just took things out of our packets. I work for one of the biggest districts in California, actually one of the biggest in the United States. So they gave the kids the printed the packets. They started the lunches, so the kids would come and pick up the lunches and stuff. The kids had a date to bring the packets back and put them in a box, and then they gave them another packet. So they ended up getting, I think, 3 packets all the way through. About the first 2, until about May 1st, we got let out on March 18th to May 1st. We were told, yeah, you can contact them if you want to. Do you want us to keep track of it? Yeah, if you want to, don't worry about it. We're like, okay, well, a lot of us have Dojo or Remind where we can get in contact with our parents that way. And so we, how you doing? Is there anything we can help you with? You can come and pick up lunches for all your students. And then they extended it. It doesn't matter if they were 2 years old up to 18. All the schools were giving out. They had a pickup from this time to this time where they can come get a sack lunch and a breakfast. Because we had a lot of, there were a lot of families that they don't have enough food. And we have a lot of people that are losing their jobs because of it. And so then all of a sudden they said, well, so people were starting to do Zoom, people were starting to put things together, but then we were also told, big thing they wanted to be is stay in touch with your kids and see how they're doing their social emotional. That was a big thing. Don't overload them. And I'm reading stuff on Facebook where people were just massively overloading their students. They were working 8-10 hours a day. Happened to a friend of mine. Her second grader was about 8 to 10 hours of work a day. All on a thing. But on one hand, that district was ready to go. When they left the school that day, last day of school, they handed them their Chromebook as they're walking out the door. The next day, they switched right into learning. They were ready. For a lot of districts, it caught us so far off guard that we weren't ready. And as teachers, we weren't. Well, we got in there and we got going. I learned Zoom. I didn't even know what Zoom was. I learned Zoom. I learned, I got better at Freckles. I learned Epic, a program I hadn't did in years for reading. I already had Google Classroom set up, so I used that a lot. I had friends of mine for kindergarten, first grade, and second who had never used Google Classroom were setting it up. But we had a lot of problems too, because a lot of our kids don't have the internet. So what our district did was, and a lot of districts out here, is they took buses out and they created hotspots so the kids could go and touch into those hotspots so they could have the internet. And each family got a Chromebook. So if they had 3 kids, they got 1 Chromebook, which could cause some problems too. And I did teach a few lessons. We were told not to teach anything new, but we could do review. But I had twice a week we met, my class did. The class that I did see, I had about half my class I never saw again, which still worries me. But we touched base and the kids had a chance to say hi because they needed that. They missed their classmates and things. And that was fun. We played Kahoot games that was class related and things. We'll be back in August. Don't know how we're going to do it, but we will be back. Have I learned a lot? Yeah. For next year, on my Google Classroom, my grade level and I were creating it's going to be a source room on Google Classroom where we're making videos where the kids can and parents could assess the videos on the lessons that we're teaching. So if they, like say we're teaching fractions and they get stuck on it, then they can go into that and watch it. Because what we're anticipating that even if we go back to a physical classroom, we don't know if it's going to be, and it sounds strange even saying that, we don't know if we're going to be there half the time or we're going to be there full time or we're going to be there and then get shoved off back into a virtual world. And this time, I don't see us anticipating us having print and package printed material from the district. These are things that we're going to have to put together. So we're probably going to do even more intense Google Classroom. And we have to be prepared for it. So we're going to bring a lot of those things we learned back into our regular classrooms because we're preparing both ways. So yeah, we learned a lot, but we miss our students. Most teachers that I feel I've talked to feel that the year is incomplete and just not done.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Thank you. How do you feel when you began working online? How did you, how did you feel psychologically, emotionally, physically? How did you feel when you had to, when you said, okay, you now have to be teaching online? What is that feeling like?
Oh, it was terrifying in some ways, because even though I have some technical knowledge, which cracks me up, and some of my other friends think I'm super techie. It was hard in a lot of ways because I'm not as techie as a lot of the other people. Thank goodness I have a lot of friends I can talk. Okay, how do I do this? And thank God for YouTube and some of the Facebook groups that I would go in and listen to. But there's still so many other things I don't know. And one thing our district did, they realized that there was large gaps in our education as teachers. So they started offering Zoom classes for teachers on YouTube, how to make YouTube. I already knew Flipgrid. Yeah, I made Flipgrid videos for my kids too. How to use Zoom, how to make slides, how to use Google Classroom, because we had a lot of teachers didn't know how to do that, and a lot of things that would benefit us. So the district was really great about jumping on the ball and helping us out, because they realized so many of us needed this and we didn't have that expertise, and which will greatly benefit us next year. But there's still that what if factor, what's going to happen next year, and nobody knows. So everybody's really kind of, I don't know, wary, I guess I should say. Yeah, it was hard on a lot of people. I in some ways it brought a lot of teachers together more. At least my team now is closer now than what it was before. I had teachers reaching out to me that, really didn't reach out to me before, because they had to touch bases with people. How are you doing? How's things going and things? Because it was hard. We were isolated, not just from our kids, but from our jobs, especially for a lot of us that our jobs was our world, but from our families. We couldn't go shopping. You can only spend so much time on Facebook. You can only watch TV so long. You can only binge watch for so long. Even cleaning gets kind of boring after a while.
Cleaning is always boring.
Exactly.
I mean, you were even afraid to go out and walk. I did get more gardening done. Yeah, it was hard on everybody physically. Everybody talked about the quarantine 15, meaning everybody gained 15 more pounds quarantine. I was trying not to do that. And yeah, it was hard on everybody. And it still is, because people are still scared.
Thank you. But in terms of, how was it when you actually had to start teaching online, when you actually were told, okay, here you are, get on with it?
Well, it was, so it was interesting because, you have your plans that are all set up, and then you have to completely drop them overnight, and then go away and set up something else completely new, don't you? So that was a bit, sort of, it was
unnerving.
A bit, unnerving. And I had to go away and think about it for a little bit. But the school that I'm in, that they were really organised and they reacted really, really well, actually, I have to say. And they all of the kids and everybody in the school got a Google address, and that really, really helped. So everybody, before everybody left, they made sure everybody got a Google address, and everybody went over to Google, so that Google Classroom could start straight away. And we have Google Pioneers, of which I'm one, because I've been on Google Classroom for about 8 years. I've been teaching my sixth form on there. So I was aware of some of it, not all of it, certainly, but I was aware of some of it. And we have just basically helped each other out. And so, you know, you were right, Kelly, about bringing everybody together. That's been fantastic. And we've got groups on there. So the staff rooms on there, and that's been fantastic. And just saying hi and stuff like that. And Emma Belzy, she's our events manager, but she's not called that anymore because she's got something posher, but I can't remember what it is. But she's been organising sort of events for everybody to turn, like quizzes and stuff like that, for people to turn up. And so there's sort of well-being things that are still happening, which is amazing. For me, I felt useless initially. I felt like, well, because, you know, because I'm the performing arts teacher, people come and sit and talk to me, and I go, oh, come here, you know, it's fine. You know, kids come and talk to me all the time. And so, you know, I felt a bit like a spare part. So I'd seen that Patrick Stewart had been doing sonnets, like a sonnet a day. So I thought, well, if it's good enough for Patrick Stewart, it's good enough for us. So I've been doing a sonnet a day on our school website. So we're on sonnet 78, and I have done it religiously every day. And so I do one sonnet, and then I do an extra. And I talk about whatever's going on. So with George Floyd, I talked about that. I talk about the stuff that's going on in London, not heavy, because, you know, I talk about the foxes going mad in my garden. I talk about my son that decided it was a really good idea to dive head first through the panel in my conservatory door, that type of thing. But it's my way of talking to the kids. They're not there, but they can get in touch with me and let me know how they're feeling, give me a poem that they recommend, you know, feedback to me. And that's been very, very good for me, and I hope also for them, because it gives me a bit of a selfishly, it gives me a bit of a I'm still relevant, and you know, and I hope it's giving them something as well. So yeah, you know, I've dealt with having to deal with it online, by trying to do the best, you know, like everybody else, by trying to do the best work that you can do. And fortunately, I'm working in a school where they dealt with it very efficiently, and everything was really, really organised. You know, they took the children who didn't have laptops or anything. They've taken the children out laptops and stuff like that, and they've organised free school meals tokens and stuff like that for that. So I'm, you know, I've been very fortunate in that kind of way. I know, you know, I have been really lucky at that. And, you know, you hear nightmare stories where people have been looked, where you know, the SLT have been looking over their shoulders and, you know, making them do lesson plans and stuff like that. That hasn't happened. I think that would drive me crazy. They've been really supportive. So, and that, you know, so that's really helped. You know, we get a weekly thing, you know, I think it's just been very supportive. Had it not been very supportive, I think I would have gone crazy, to be honest with you, because it has been a massive change, hasn't it? When also, because I have two kids. I have two kids and I'm homeschooling. So I share that with my partner, who I'm really lucky is brilliant. So he's a university lecturer. So he does the homeschooling in the morning, whilst I'm working. And when I work, you know, I'm on the computer talking to the kids. When I say talking, you know, emailing is whatever, the kids, and sort of dealing with any sort of emails that have come up from any of my colleagues or whatever. and I work until maybe 12:30, and then I take over from my partner, and then I teach my kids until like 3, and then anything else that I need to do I finish later on. So, and that's, you know, that's hardcore, because there is nothing like being told by your own child that your lesson is boring.
Exactly, isn't it? I've had the same challenge, my dear. You know,
wound to the heart.
Yes, because you think that, okay, you see, the other thing is, it is so challenging to teach your own child.
Oh.
I've been having really challenges. I'm saying, okay, you have to do consistent, you have to work consistently for 3 hours, and I need to see what you do. I'm having all kind of a drama.
Yeah.
Drama nonstop. And you see, people doesn't realize that we have to teach the children because we work with them. We still have our own children to try to teach.
I know. And they know how to wound you, and they know, you know, it's like, Mum, you're a rubbish teacher, what are you doing? It's just terrible.
Exactly.
I don't have any children, so I didn't have to go through that. So
don't have any, they're horrible.
It's a challenge. It's
I just
a
have
challenge.
dogs and cats, and they're enjoying me being home. You know,
I bet.
this really caught everybody off guard, and I think a lot of things, what happened out here is that we were waiting so much for guidance from up above on what to do. And there was so much of trying to figure out how we're going to handle it and what we're going to do. And I got to admit, I got a lot of support from everybody. Our principal, we had a Zoom meeting every week with the staff, which was great just to see another face.
Yeah.
Other than my family and my dogs and cats. Even if it was just on Zoom, the first time we had a Zoom meeting, it was like, okay, first I got to take a shower and actually, with my hair for the change. I have to get out of my PJs for a change. And that was kind of exciting thing to do, that in itself. So today I'm just in a t-shirt. Yeah. And yes, I do have shorts on. I'm not in PJs, pants. And then, just seeing that every week was a great support thing. And then she would just ask, how's everybody doing? And you saw everybody that was just excited just to see everybody. And then at the end of the meeting, nobody wanted to leave. It was so obvious that people didn't want to leave because they were just, even if you didn't know the other teacher's name that well, you don't know them that well, you see their name and stuff because they worked on the other side of campus. You're like, oh, how you doing? How's things going for you? Yeah. How's things going? And you're like, you never see them that much on campus. You were just glad to see somebody that you knew in a way.
Yeah.
And that was thing because it was a shocking thing. And we felt supported and things. And I mean, I didn't have to submit lesson plans. The only thing I ended up doing was I had to submit a record of being in touch with my parents, which I had done through Zoom. I did a Zoom parent meeting one time. I had to submit a log on that to prove that we had been in contact with our parents. I called parents and things like that. Then what else we had to do? I read horror stories online. Their teachers had principals doing observations of them online. And I'm like, oh my God. Sorry if I offended anybody by saying that, but it's hard enough having a principal come in and do an observation for an evaluation in the classroom, even after close to 15 years of teaching, much less having them come in. And we were never taught how to teach in a virtual world. We were never taught how to do this. we are stumbling and trying to figure it out on our own through trials and errors of everybody else, and talking to it. Hey, did you try this? Hey, did you see this website? I mean, on our shared drive of Google Drive, we have on our 5th grade team, we have a whole folder that says long distance learning, teaching, and we have folders upon folders of websites and ideas and stuff thrown in there in case this all pops up again, just to help us out. And we had no idea, but can you imagine having a principal coming in to watch you teach a bunch of kids, and you're like, dang, I mean, like, I didn't know that when you tried to hold a piece of paper up on Zoom, that it shows backwards to everybody else on the screen. And it's like, well, how can I teach math if it's backwards? Well, Zoom has its own whiteboard. Well, it doesn't look as nice. So things like that, you learned it went. I didn't have to submit lesson plans, thank God. And our school district was going more towards, okay, teach what you've already have taught. Don't overload them. Make sure they're okay. That was the number one thing. Give them a chance to talk to their classmates. The first Zoom I had when I got to talk to my kids was so great. It was like, oh, I got to see my kids. Wow, fantastic. I had a smile on my face the rest of the day. And even with my parents, I noticed a lot of my parents were reaching out to me through Zoom, because lots of times they didn't have anybody to talk to or anything. And even through Dojo, I had parents telling me, yeah, I'm having some problems because members of my family's down in LA, they're in the hospital with the virus and we're worried about them. And I've had some people come up positive and things. Oh, well, I'm here if you need somebody just to listen. So sometimes they just think, or I'll say, I had one parent telling me funny stories about their student, and I just sat there and just roared. And we're just texting back and forth to about 11 o'clock at night. So they needed that support too. But no, I'm not an expert at it. I'm still learning. And at 61 years old, you can teach an old dog new tricks, and I'm still learning a bunch of them.
But as teachers, don't you think? But as teachers, we should still learn.
We should, because
definitely.
And for teachers to be thrown into such a extremely new world. A lot of us were not techie. Some were even less. I had friends of mine that had no idea how to do a Google Classroom. They didn't even know how to set up Dojo. Okay, this is how you do it. I'd get all these phone calls from kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade teachers. They said, you're pretty techie. And I'm like, no. Thank you for the compliment, because I have two, 3 people that I work with. I'm like, we're working on deconstructing standards, and they'll do, did I do that? No, Kelly, you didn't do it. Oh, okay. I thought I did something again. Can you guys fix this? I don't know what I did. They'll go fix the document for me. But, it was nice that everybody leaned on each other. The district did a good job helping us out. I think everybody learned on the fly, and we're learning more. It's going to definitely move us into the 21st century, whether we wanted to go kicking and screaming. We've got a lot more to do in the upcoming year, and we've got just the summer month growth or non-growth they're going through. We got 6 months to deal with when they come back.
I'm actually, sorry, go on, Donnie.
We'll make it.
Yeah,
they'll make it.
I'm actually going into school next Wednesday.
Oh, you're lucky.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to go in and teach my year 12s for 2 hours.
Now, year 12 is like high school for us? You have 13 years, right?
Yeah.
So we have kindergarten through 12th grade. They graduate in 12th grade.
Oh, yeah.
So they're like 18, 17.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So around about 16, 17-year-olds.
Yeah, when we were finally allowed to go to our classrooms, they had to stagger our days. We were only allowed to be in there X amount of hours. We didn't completely close the classrooms down like usual. We had like a partial day to take things out. We had to clear out our students' desks for the kids if they had personal things in it. Luckily, I had the kids clean their desk and take things home, those that were there. I only had like maybe 10 kids out of 24. I had a small class this year. The last day of school, but everybody I know said it just felt weird, but we haven't been allowed in the classrooms like we normally are. Like this summer we never allowed in the summertime, but it's just weird feeling. We're excited to get back in the classroom, but it just felt weird.
Yeah.
I think weird's going to be the new normal.
I think so. The new normal is going to be the normal.
Yeah.
Yes, very true. Very, very true.
Yeah.
You know, is the situation where we're at right now. What tips would you give to any educators in terms of their thought process, having to teach online now, what the anxiety they're likely to be saying that they're experiencing? What would you say to them?
For me, I think you need to think really creatively. For anybody who teaches a practical subject, you need to think of ways of making that a lesson really engaging. So creating opportunities for students to use their imagination in different ways. So like creating the mood board. So where students can maybe film themselves doing a skill and then uploading that, or using their or doing monologue that they can film themselves and put on, or just doing something creative, or just being natural and thinking about using the time that we've actually got to watch theatre. And because when are we going to have that time when we can actually sit and breathe and use that time for the children to watch the theatre and have that knowledge, have that time to look and see what's there right in front of them. So that's my advice, to try and think outside of outside of the box as possible.
So what would you say to the educator themselves if they're anxious?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
no, that's fine. Because that's good what you're telling to children. But okay, the children. But don't forget the two parties there. They're the children. They're us. But don't forget us.
No. That's why I was saying to the teacher to try and think creatively as possible. But so that's what I think. I think you need to be as creative as possible to try and engage the students. But I think for the teacher, that you need to take one step at a time. And my nan has got the most fantastic advice ever, bar none, which is, if today you don't get it right, tomorrow you will. And be kind to yourself. If you don't get it right today, try not to panic. You will get it right tomorrow. Everything's a learning process. And any mistakes, in drama, we know that mistakes are useful and you learn from them. And I think that's a really important thing that we're learning now, that if I don't know how to do a Google quiz, for example, well, then I'll make mistakes and then I'll learn about it. And I think at this particular time, we need to understand that this is a learning process for us all. And actually what we have accomplished in a small time is pretty amazing.
Yes, 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 yes.
Not that we're getting the recognition from, you know, perhaps journalists, for example, from but actually what we have accomplished as a group, as a body of people, but what we have accomplished is pretty amazing.
Yep, I second that. Yep, very much so. Yep. Kelly?
I agree. I think the number one thing we need to realize is be kind to yourself. Number one, be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is virtual education. Seek help of others who know more than you. Be friendly with them. Help each other out. Be patient with yourself and your students. And if you make a mistake and they see it, admit it. Try all different things. I like Flipgrid. It's a great way. The kids love it. You make a video, they make a video, and they answer back. And it's a great way to show that they're understanding. I use it in the regular classroom. Realize that things are tough on the kids, and they may not always respond that they will in a classroom. Realize that parents have got a lot of things to worry about, and whether or not a kid is doing their daily work from 9 to 5, because no one may be at home. Monitor them to make sure they're doing their work. And hang in there. We will get through it. And remember that the biggest thing about being a teacher is your student too. And I think that's the biggest thing we learned again about is becoming a big student again.
Yes.
Even at 61.
Yes.
Definitely.
Definitely. Yes.
And Facebook did help, surprisingly. Other teachers were my savior.
Yeah, that's the beauty. I think the factor also, I'm just going to add, to what you guys say is exactly spot on. And too often we feel that we are so hard on ourselves that we should get it right. No. As you both say, we need to embrace wherever we are.
Yeah.
Yep.
On my, I do it. I record my classes on Screenify. And I purposefully keep my mistakes in.
Good.
I need to learn that one better. Yeah.
Because, I think that if the students can see where I'm making mistakes, I mean, they're quite used to my ramblings anyway, that if they get used to the fact that I make mistakes a lot, that they can see that it's okay. And if I make mistakes, that they can make mistakes.
Yes. And I think that is crucial because it actually helps in their confidence. It makes them actually become more confident in the fact that, okay, Miss make mistakes, so it's okay for me to make mistakes. And I'm confident within myself, because the main factor we're trying to get through to the students is you need to be confident. It doesn't matter about the mistake, be confident with it. So that is a factor. Yeah.
But there's one more thing I learned through all this. I started taking more time for myself that I didn't do before. I had gotten so much into school, my job, my profession. Even when I'd come home, it was always something, my profession, especially because I don't have children. I had the dog show world, things I do around the house, but I had stopped doing so many things throughout the years. And when I got pushed back into my home environment where I had to do things, I was like, well, how come when's the last time I did this? When's the last time I planted flowers? When's the last time I did this? And I'm like, wow, I don't remember. So that's one thing I learned for myself too. As a when I was a younger teacher, they always told you, make sure you do things for yourself. Make sure you take time for yourself. And I got away from that, as a lot of teachers do, because your profession and our quest to make things better and better for our kids, to reflect and become better teachers, it just overrides everything sometimes, that we forget to take time for us.
Mhm.
And I found that it's okay to start doing that again. And
Mhm.
that's a big thing that I intend to continue from now on, is taking the time for myself again. And it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can have both worlds.
Mhm.
And I've talked to several fellow teachers, and they're like, yeah, I found out the same thing. Like, yeah, I went out and worked in my garden. I'm like, I haven't had a garden in years. Or, yeah, I'm out there planting plants. And like, wow, I don't remember last time I planted a plant. And it was amazing that we all had the same type of feelings, that we let that part of our lives die off in a way, all because our love of our other life. And you got to have that balance to be, I don't know, to be balanced, I guess.
Yeah. I have absolutely loved being able to homeschool my kids, because I'm not there ever to go to parent teacher things. I'm not there. And so it's just been a real privilege. I know I was mean about them, but it's just been a real privilege actually to spend some time with them and to do that. So that bit has been glorious.
Yeah.
I want it.
Yeah, exactly. I too love it. It is just fantastic. It means that, as you rightly say, you are here with the children. It's lovely. And I find that as both of you, I start having more me time. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this feels nice.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And there's no guilt feeling. It just feels nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finishing 2 college courses right now and having a blast.
You see,
wow.
And I'm still working on my flowers and trying to organize my house. I'm not being too successful on that, but
one thing at a time.
But it's the me time that is so fantastic. That's the beautiful thing about it. We had forgotten ourselves when we in the physical classroom.
But I think I'm working more hours. Do you know what I mean? But I don't feel, I feel like I'm spending more time with my kids.
Yeah. I think because we are not going out.
Yeah.
I read 3 books that had nothing to do with education.
Oh.
Kelly, you're really taking me time. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very, very much, both Kelly and Patia. It's fantastic. Yet again, Facebook, another fantastic session on how we feel as educators, what we do as the real thing we do as educators, not what you think we do. This is real what we do. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again tomorrow, Facebook, with another set of female educators to show you what we really do live in the classroom and how we actually connecting it to online.